I have determined that today is the day when I will finally get around to one topic that I have always wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. You guys know I review foods, I review movies to the best of my ability. I don't claim to be an expert or do particularly well at that, but some of you guys really are fanatics of that type of content, which it really means a lot to me because it's not the stuff that I'm most confident discussing, because I just feel like I don't get enough practice out of that. I find myself short on things to say when it comes to those things. I have always wanted to review celebrities. What is my opinion about celebrities? And the reason I wanted to make this a thing is because there are some celebrities that I really have memories of from when I was a kid, and I just remember how heavily opinionated I was at the time and the kind of treatment that I got as a result. I just wanted to share with you guys some of my thoughts with that, and you guys can either agree, disagree, or engage me in a debate of some sort, whatever you please. Today's subject is going to be Britney Spears. I selected her because when I was a kid, I was very animated about this one. It all started when my cousin, he comes from the maternal side of the family, from mom's middle brother. This cousin of mine is older than me. I want to say he is about 8 to 10 years older than me. I forget his exact age. At some point, decades ago, he was living with us and I was still a kid. He was an aspiring musician. At the time, you had the likes of Justin Timberlake, and NSYNC was still making some noise. You had people like Avril Lavigne, all these people who were popular at the time. One of the folks he was particularly fond of and devoted to was Britney Spears. And I really didn't know a whole lot about her, but I did recognize that she was the singer behind some of the songs that I kept hearing on the radio. I just didn't know what she looked like. After I saw what she looked like, I was not impressed. The first thing that bothered me was that she was wearing what I considered, as a kid, and I guess you can say presently, I still think this way, she was wearing slutty clothes. Everything that she wore was either sheer, or it revealed cleavage, or she was revealing pretty much her entire leg. That is just something I grew up frowning. And to me, that is not a symbol of having self-respect. And that's just the way that I was raised. It has nothing to do with lacking self-confidence with my body, or that my family was imposing on me misogynistic views. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that we are people who have certain values. And one of the values we have is that we must protect our bodies, we must cover them up, we must respect our bodies. Clearly, this person is making money by going against the very values that we have. Well, my cousin was actually part of a generation of cousins that they had a little bit of different views, because he has a sister. Her style could be something that, say, in my household, we may have frowned upon. She liked to wear cropped tops and she liked to wear super short shorts, and we get it. She had a nice body at the time. She was 18 or so, and I understand why. When you're that age, on some people, you really want to show that off because you just know that it's your youth. You are looking for romance or whatever the heck is going through your mind during an age like that, and what your definition of a fulfilling relationship is. This cousin of mine, I would express to him that I hated Britney Spears. I was like, she's ugly. I hate her. She's terrible. She sings horrible. I hate her music. I don't like how she looks. I genuinely thought that Britney Spears was not an attractive woman. The fact that she was also going against the stuff that I just explained made her worse. But my cousin was starting to attack me and remember that I'm like still a kid. Well, he was telling me stuff like, you're just mad because you're not her. You're just mad because her hair is better than yours. This cousin of mine values blonde hair that is straight. He used to think that my hair is bad hair, or like my brother's hair is bad hair, because it's the type where you submerge yourself underwater and it really doesn't change. I had no idea at the time that my cousin was actually being racist toward me, because this cousin of mine happens to be paler. He still got like black hair and brown eyes, but he really, really, really has a thing for white girls. If it ain't white, it ain't right. But looking back, he really had an inferiority complex. He was trying to make me feel like I had an inferiority complex. Another thing he said was something like, well, she's richer than you. And I'm like, how do you tell a child that this other person has more money than they do? At the time, I did not understand why my cousin would want to say that when this motherfucker needs to live with us because he's homeless. You know, if it weren't for my mother accepting your ass, adult ass, into our household, you would be on the streets, under a bridge. And here you are insulting me in my house. I happen to be a chubby kid. So, of course, another thing my cousin was saying to me, oh, well, she's skinnier than you and you're fat, stuff like that. Fortunately, and I just cannot be thankful enough that my mom raised me to not be weakened by attacks on me based on my appearance. She taught me that appearance was just subjective. I'm going to meet people who are nice about it. I'm going to meet people who are pricks about it. And my cousin living under my roof happens to be a prick about it. But at the same time, I'm glad that I had those experiences with him, because it taught me that he has issues. It prepared me for the real issues I was going to encounter once I stepped into school at a later age, higher grades. It's like when she would try to cover her upper body, she was exposing her lower body. If she was covering her entire body, she was wearing a sheer kind of fabric. And if she was maybe covering a little bit of her legs, she was still revealing her upper body. Why? Why do you have to be an attention seeker like that? I associated her as being someone who just sells because she is a naughty kind of symbol. And for me as a woman, that is something that I was highly uncomfortable with, and is something that disappointed me, because since she is mainstream, because of people like her, the fact that a lot of people admire her and follow her and idolize her, worship her, the average person, the average girl, the average woman may need to deal with those kinds of unrealistic expectations. At least I have been very fortunate in the fact that, for instance, let's just discuss the men in my life. They have been the kind who do not really go for that stuff. They don't get behind that stuff. They find that as irritating, disrespectful, and annoying as I do. They also say that they would not get behind someone who is like that because they feel like they're being disrespected. If you're in a relationship with me, why should you be exhibiting your body to the public? So I was glad to find out that in real life, stuff actually works out differently, and my values and customs tend to be actually more respected and more tolerated. It was relieving, an absolute breath of fresh air. It made me feel more confident than ever that the values inculcated unto me were actually useful. Another thing that particularly irritated the living mess out of me was her fucking voice. The few clips that I have heard about her in like her natural, unedited voice, this woman is supposed to be a severe alto. So how do you explain to me that an alto is constantly sounding like a mezzo-soprano or like a soprano? And even on top of that, she needs to be auto-tuned. I absolutely lose respect for anybody who resorts to artificial means to achieve something. And from a musical point of view, even as a kid, aside from my bias of this person who is singing, I think is a terrible influence. Before I knew what she looked like, I hated her songs. I hated Toxic. I hated the Baby One More Time song. I hated the Oops, I Did It Again song. The instrumental arrangement, in addition to her voice, just happened to not be suitable for me. As I do more of these celebrity reviews, you will understand what I mean by that even more, because there are some artists that I intend to discuss that you may be surprised to find out I actually do not dig their music, but there is other stuff about them that I can admire them for. Britney is one artist that I cannot admire her for anything. Her fashion style is not compatible with mine. As a dancer, I guess I could give her some credit on that, because you cannot fake your way to being a good dancer. And even though her dancing styles are overly sexualized, you still got talent, because I, for the life of me, cannot dance. I have zero coordination. I have zero rhythm. As a dancer, I absolutely am a failure. And I will be the very first one to admit it. I am not going to talk trash about someone on a department that I am particularly weak at. Dancing is something that either I can see your talent, or I simply dismiss it entirely because I'm not well informed to have an opinion. But I just remember that her voice was just really irritating for me. It just sounded like someone who wants to be stuck in being a child forever. And I particularly like to see people with dynamic, and dynamic is also very important in music. I find myself more attracted to the musicians who actually have a lot of diversity, a lot of range, a lot of dynamic to their songs. But that dynamic is achieved because the singer actually possesses a musical training and can actually manifest such a skill. When you rely too much on computer assistance and stuff like that, I just lose respect for you, because I want to admire you for being talented, but you really aren't. Another thing that I could not get behind about Britney was her drug usage, or alleged drug usage. And it is evident that she has messed with substances at some point, because it shows on her skin, it shows on her physical state. And even if she has been completely clean from drugs, clearly the kind of schedule she has, the kind of work that she has, it's too extreme, to the point that she is not coping very well with stress. She's not getting the rest that she needs, and that stuff will start to affect your body. I know that I feel like I have aged myself by 5 years because of all the stress and all the sleep that I have lost, the times that I went a while having a terrible diet, and my body just started to break down naturally, because that's just what it does when you stop taking care of it. But on top of presenting yourself in a manner I deem disrespectful, you also use drugs, something that I am severely against. And when I think about it, pretty much everybody in that celebrity world is into that stuff. So is she immune to it? Is she safe? Is she in a position where she can make better choices about it? Probably not. But the fact that you do that stuff or have done that stuff, it affects my perception of you negatively. Another thing that made me uncomfortable about her, I guess, was her 700 relationships. Very, very short-term relationships. They're like flings, I guess. You guys know, if you have been watching me for a long time, that relationships are something that are sacred to me. I respect them a lot. And here I have this person in the public eye who is trying to make it seem cool to live a crazy life dating a bunch of guys. And while your dating choices are something very personal to you, and the quest of finding a partner, the experiences will vary from person to person. The sole fact that you're bouncing around from different people too much and getting intimately involved with a lot of people is just something that, for me personally, I can't get behind that. It's not something that I can do. I value monogamy a lot, and I value respecting the time due for every single relationship. If I split from someone, I usually give myself some time to heal because I spent time with this person, whether they deserve the respect or not. It's just something I like to do so that I have time to reflect, recover, and truly get to know myself better after such an experience. But when you immediately get involved with someone, I feel like you deprive yourself of healing. Just like you have to take some time to rest after exercise, you should take time to rest after a relationship, because relationships can be pretty draining. Even the most easy, healthy, perfectly working, strong relationships. And I feel like this person is not a good example of the kind of behavior that you should exhibit upon the conclusion of a relationship. And of course, another thing that disappoints me about this person is the plastic surgery. And the reason I am against that is simply because it sets a bad example to people who are more sensitive about how they perceive their bodies. It will make some people feel like my nose is too thick, I have to make it thinner. My body dimension is not favorable, like I need to have some curves, but I need to be very slim in other areas. How do you explain to me the artists that somehow have like a really tiny waist, but somehow their lower body is like exaggerated with its features? I don't like that. I don't like for people to feel like they have to pursue an image that's not realistically achievable, because if it were achievable, these people would not need to recur to plastic surgery. You look the way that you do for a reason. But when someone gets plastic surgery and they experience complications, I find it very hard to have empathy, because from my point of view, I cannot value vanity. If you perform plastic surgery out of vanity, that is something that I am a little strict about. But if you're performing plastic surgery because you need it for medical reasons, like say you were in an accident and you broke your nose, it needs to be reconstructed, sure, go ahead and do that. Or you broke your jaw, so you need to accommodate your bones and do, procedures to like get your face to function properly and to diminish the amount of pain that you're experiencing. Reconstructive surgery is not something that I am ever against. Plastic surgery out of vanity, it just really sends a bad example to me. And I am so sick of the musicians who say that they get plastic surgery because they breathe better if they do it. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you can very easily achieve the notes that you need to hit if you train properly. I know of a lot of artists who have like thick noses that they still are able to hit the higher notes. I just really would like to see people more proactively against that. Be like, hey, there's really nothing wrong with the way I look. This person is clearly not satisfied with the way they look because their industry forces them to do that. But I would rather admire someone who is against plastic surgery and as a result, they lose career opportunities. They stick to themselves. Because to me, this sets the example of my employment is more important than my values. I will go as far as sacrificing my body and pretending that I am happy with the results just because my potential employer is making me feel pressured. What kind of person would lower their standards and values and lower their bar so much that in the name of a few $1,000,000, you really feel like they're entitled to demanding from you that you change your body so that you can fulfill a role? I cannot imagine a life in which I value that. As I mentioned earlier, instrumentally, I just happen to not feel her music. But aggravating the matter is the fact that she doesn't even write the vast majority of her music. So she is actually not a real musician. She is a fabricated musician. And as a result, my perception of her as a kid and present day is that everything that comes from her is just fake. Physically, her voice, the way she manifests, all those things. And once again, for me growing up, especially as a kid, when my discipline was being forged, my values were being inculcated onto me, she just seemed like a really bad influence to me. Now, the one thing that I can give her points for, which, I mean, pretty much most people in Hollywood can get this easily, is the fact that she exercises well. From some videos that I have seen, she definitely puts in the work to maintain a great deal of her physique. But I mean, I find it difficult to give her credit for that as well, because as much effort as it takes for you to be physically active, when you are a multimillionaire and you have the resources and you can afford to pay personal trainers and afford the best ingredients in foods, the better quality, and have all of this at your home, you really have to be trying to be a failure with your body to not succeed at this, aside from if you happen to have medical conditions that impede you from having a slim figure. But I mean, when you have so much resources, again, you really have to be trying to be really bad at how you take care of your body. But again, I want to acknowledge the fact that being physically active and maintaining your body shape, all the effort that it takes a lot of fucking hard work, because at some point I was working out and it definitely takes a lot of effort to maintain your physique. And even when I used to be in my best shape, there were parts of my body that were still not developed properly. I understand that I cannot call myself a success story, but at least I was happy with what I could do that I never imagined that my body could do. But once again, it's hard for me to respect her for doing that when you have the time, resources, and coaching to do this kind of thing. When it comes to time, it might be difficult because I know that their schedules tend to be crazy, especially when they're on tour, and you may resort to eating crap while you're on the road. Your exercise routine may not be the same, but once again, there is a lot that you have at your disposal to accommodate this routine and make it continually work for you. Well, there you guys have it. That concludes my review, opinion of Britney Spears. I hope that you guys liked the way that I expressed myself with this matter. I'm not trying to make an issue out of this person. This video is not to make you hate on this person or look at them the way that I look at them or perceive them any different. It's just that since these people are on your face a lot or on your ears a lot, inevitably they can become an influence, and anything that influences you, you can have an opinion of. So I thought that I would speak about these people as objectively as possible, because when you talk about your personal friends and stuff, you can be very subjective. But this is a person whom I only know about because of her profession. So I wanted to limit my criticism of her for her profession. And of course, when it comes to her relationship, because her relationships make it to the public, it's easy for me to develop an opinion about that as well, because I too have relationships. I know how mine go, whether they go public in my immediate circle or not. That is just something that is part of the human behavior, and it can also generate opinions. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon.